Well, you may be able to see here that there's some butterflies over here flying around. They're right around that campfire is one of them flying around there. There's several more flying in different places around here. Some of them I can catch you here a little bit, here or there. There's one right there. It may fly off here in a minute. See this? There's another one. Well, not going to worry about the butterflies here. They're just out flittering around here. I don't know. I'm used to when I look through this thing, I don't see the. I see it very small. Then when I get to look at it on the, when it's actually on the internet, when it's actually on my computer, I can see it a lot bigger. So I can see the things I thought may not have been visible because of the size of them. But that's nonetheless, there's a bunch of them there. And if you look up in the sky, it is very blue today. It was rain the past few days, but today it's very sky is pretty clear, than maybe a scattered cloud here or there. And I'm right next to a stream here. And I'm in an area, this is called for primitive camping. In other words, there's no electricity here. No campers or anything. You can see right over there, if I can zoom in, there's some people camping in that area over there. They have a tent. And there's 4 different campsites in here. There's the one you can see right in front of me here. There's wrong way. Oh, yeah, I had it right. Because it's right there, it's in front of the bridge. It's right there, but you can see a table there. Every one of these, and I'm sitting at a table here, this one right here, and it has a campfire. There's 3, the one where that tent is, the one between me and the tent. There's their campfire, site for the campfire, and the table, and you kind of right here, right over here is a little area that the tent could be pitched at. So just for that little bit that you can have here. But a very nice day out. The wind is kind of coming and going. Right now it's stopped. And I've seen a few people out here hiking, so there's some places to go hiking around here. And you can kind of see with the trees. Let me get up here. See if I can get. You can see the green in there. And right here you can see it even better. So some of these trees are starting to get green. Not all of them have totally come out, but they're starting that way. Very soon there'll be a bunch of green leaves up here. So, but it's not. What I came to do today was to do another one of these Holy Week devotionals. And I just came to a different area. I've been out here before to do this. I've done some recording out here before, but this is the first time in a while. It's the first one of these I've done out here. I've done here this week. I've done it in a couple of different places, and I get to be outside today, not in the car, so that's a good thing too. Today I'm wanting to read, and I had alluded to this earlier, a couple of days ago, I believe it was, about the question of Jesus' authority. When they asked, by what authority do you do this? And I said, well, eventually he will tell them. Not directly in the answer to that question, but it will be told to them by whose authority he's doing it. There will be no uncertainty on that. And so I want to read, this is in Matthew 26. This is after Jesus has been arrested. Now, yesterday I read the part about I read this story from Matthew 26, verse 26 and following about the Last Supper, and Jesus is instituting the Lord's Supper. And skipping over, what I'm skipping over here is Jesus and his disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then his arrest. But I want to pick up in verse 57, and still Matthew 26. And in this is Jesus' trial before the Sanhedrin. And in verse 57 it says, "And they that laid hold on Jesus," this is talking about the people who arrested him in the garden, "led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him afar off unto the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end. Now the chief priest and the elders and all the council sought false witness against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. And at the last came 2 false witnesses, and said, This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God, and to build it in 3 days. And the high priest arose and said unto him, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless, I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man. Oh, somebody walking with their dog over there. Let me start that one over again. This is verse 64. Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless, I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, He is guilty of death. So Jesus has been taken to the council, or what's commonly referred to as the Sanhedrin, and they are looking, as it says, as Matthew puts it here, this is verse 59, it says, Now the chief priest and elders and all the council sought false witness against Jesus to put him to death. Now, that's not what the council is supposed to do. If someone makes an accusation, it's up to them to bring the witnesses. You're not trying to, this is the idea of we're starting out with the verdict, and now we're trying to get witnesses that'll say what we want, so that we can go ahead and pass what it is we're wanting to do. That's not the way that this was supposed to happen, but they were this much against Jesus, and they were looking for ways to put him to death. But it says they found none. Now it says there were plenty of false witnesses, but none of them could agree, apparently. And then in the court, a Jewish court, it did require 2 witnesses to convict someone. One witness was not good enough. And if you had ones that could not agree on their stories, well, then if they didn't agree on it, that couldn't be used. But it says finally they found a couple that came and testified that he said he was able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. And so the high priest at this point, he arises, as it says in verse 62, and he says, Do you not answer? He says, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? He says, You don't have anything to say to these charges that they're making against you? And it says Jesus held his peace. He was quiet. He had nothing to say to them. And it says, The high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Because I'm tired of having to deal with any of these witnesses. I want you, he said, I demand by the living God that you tell us whether you're the Messiah, the Son of God. Whether you're the Christ, that's the equivalent. It's a Greek word, comes from the Greek word Christos, which means anointed one. It's the word for Messiah, the Greek word for Messiah. He says, I want you to tell me that. Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God? And then we have Jesus finally speaking. He answers this question. It says, Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless, I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Jesus answers him, he says, Thou sayest it. And now that's not, some versions have translated it, well, that's what you say. No, he's not, or saying if you say so or something like that. No, he's affirming, he's giving us an affirmative answer. In other words, it is as you said, I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. He says, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Now, that was a direct allusion to the book of Daniel, and I want to turn back to that. That's Daniel chapter 7, and then this is a vision that Daniel had of the four beasts that come up out of the sea. There's one beast is a lion, one is a bear, one is a leopard with four heads. And then you have this unnamed beast that's not really described in any human form, or not human form, in any animal form that they would have known at the time. But you see these four beasts that come. Then in verse 13, after which all those four beasts represent four kingdoms. But in verse 13 of chapter 7, Daniel, it says, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. And the Jews readily understood that. It was very well understood that the Ancient of Days, not the Ancient of Days, but the Son of Man, I should say, was a reference to, they understood that to be a prophecy, a promise of the Messiah. That was a term that is used for the Messiah. It's often, when Jesus uses it in the New Testament, some people have said, well, Jesus is referring to his humanity. And that's not what he's referring to. The Son of Man was a messianic title. It was a title of the Messiah. So when he refers to himself as the Son of Man, that's what he's saying. And so that was understood, and that's exactly what he tells them here. Just as you said, I am the Christ. He says, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. He says, be warned, be forewarned of what you're going to see. You're going to see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. That idea of coming in the clouds of heaven, as it says here, he's going to establish his kingdom. When he comes in the clouds of heaven, he's going to the Ancient of Days, which was a reference to God himself. And it says, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. He says, you're going to see exactly what it is Daniel prophesied. He's going to be sitting at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. You're going to see him in that exalted, powerful position. And usually also as well, when it speaks of the coming in the clouds, Jesus himself had spoke of it just a few day or two earlier, depending on kind of how you date this. In Matthew 24 and verse 29, he says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Then shall all the tribes mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. It says, and he shall send forth his angels with the sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So he's made this prediction here in Matthew 24, when his disciples asked what will be the sign of his coming and the end of the age. He tells them this. He uses the same phrase, the Son of Man coming on the cloud of glory, or the clouds of heaven, I should say. Let me turn this back here. I was reading that. The problem with trying to turn these pages, often they stick together too good. He says, it shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. It speaks of this great enthronement with power, great glory. He also talks about the sun being darkened, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. It's not necessarily something that's going to happen in the sky. I'm going back on that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but very often in the Bible, when astronomical signs were talked about, and I mean signs, I can't think of the word I'm looking for here, but the stars, the moon, the sun, the heavenly bodies, I guess is the best way to say it. When they're mentioned, it's not referring necessarily to them literally, but often it refers to nations and to peoples and kingdoms and so forth, so that they're all going to fall when the Son of Man comes in power and great glory. So that's exactly what he says is going to happen. And it's worth noting here too, this is one of the reasons reading from the King James makes this a little more obvious here. People love to talk about the archaic language in it, of the thous and these and ye's and all that. Well, I want to just stop there for a moment and just say when that's used in the Bible, in the King James Version, it masks a problem of modern English because we don't have anything to distinguish you singular from you plural. Here in the South we say y'all. Other places they say other things to make it plural. But typically speaking, just in our normal language, we don't have anything to distinguish in proper modern English between plural and singular when it's second person. But in the English of Shakespeare's time, the Elizabethan English, you had that. If it said thou, thine, thee, it was singular. If it was thou, it was subjective. If it was thee, it was in the objective case. It's an object of the preposition or direct object or whatnot. If it says thou, it's the nominative case, meaning the subject or predicate nominative, to use our English the way we say it now. If it was ye or you or your, it was plural. Ye being the subjective case, as being the subject or predicate nominative, and you being the object of a preposition or direct object or what have you. So here he says, thou hast said. He means there it's singular. Thou hast said. The high priest is who he was talking to here. You have said it. He says, nevertheless, I say unto you. Say unto you, plural. He says to the whole council here, the whole Sanhedrin, hereafter shall ye, all of you, all y'all, as we sometimes say in the South, shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. In other words, this is something that y'all aren't going to miss when it happens. This is something that it will be obvious to y'all, and y'all will be part of the ones that mourn when you see this. The idea is they're condemning him now, but one day they will be standing condemned by him. He says, then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, saying he hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? And they answered and said, he is guilty of death. At this point, they're wanting to kill him, and they don't need any witnesses now. We've got his own words here, that yes, he indeed is claiming to be the Messiah, and he says it in no uncertain terms. In fact, he goes a little bit deeper and steeper, if you will, of using Daniel's own prophecy, saying what's going to happen. About his return. Now, he had not committed blasphemy. That's only blasphemy if it was false. If what he was saying was true, it wouldn't be blasphemy. It was something they should have took heed to. But they weren't looking to take heed to it. They were looking to kill him, because they did not want him as their Messiah. They didn't want him as their ruler. They didn't want him crowned with glory and honor coming on the clouds of heaven, or anything of that nature. They didn't want that. So they were looking to kill him, and they thought if they could get rid of him, that was what they wanted to do. And here he's given them, you might say, if we would say today, he's given them enough rope to hang themselves. But we see here, he tells them when they had asked before, or at least some of them had asked when he was doing the things he did, like casting the money changers out of the temple, and they asked him, by whose authority you do this, and so he asked them about John the Baptist, and by whose authority did John do it? And they refuse to answer because they either will get he'll make them look like fools, saying, well, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you believe him? Why didn't you obey him? Why did you reject him? Or if they say, power did not come from God, it came from man, then all the people would turn against them because the people believed John to be a prophet. So Jesus says, well, and they said, we can't tell you, we don't know. And Jesus said, well, good, then I'm not going to tell you. If you, the expert, can't figure that out, I'm not going to tell you either. You can figure it out on your own by what authority I do this. But here, he makes it clear. He doesn't since answer them. He tells them by what authority. He says, I'm the Messiah. I am the Son of God. I am the Son of Man. Who's given this kingdom by the Ancient of Days, and it's coming on the cloud of glory. Coming, and that usually meant, by the way, coming in judgment when it's used. That's why Jesus says that in Matthew 24, the tribes of the earth will mourn. So that's what we have with that. Jesus making his claim of messiahship, and the council, the Sanhedrin, says, well, he's worthy of death. He's worthy to be put to death. And it'll pick up what we will we'll talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow being Good Friday, that we will get to that point, talking of Jesus's death on the cross. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to wrap this up, and again, hoping everybody has a blessed Holy Week and a blessed day, and just hope where you're at. If you're seeing this today's the 28th of March. Hope that it's as nice where you're at as it is here. So, once again, hope everybody has a blessed day, and I look forward to doing this again tomorrow if it's possible. And until then, may God bless you. Have a wonderful day.